I forgot to add this last portion of the video. I'm going to add a few other things to this video, but this is the response to O'Shea Duke Jackson saying that Zoe Saldana did not identify as black, when throughout her career she has. Anyway, continue.
We danced and we celebrated because nobody knows how to enjoy life as good as Latinos.
Now, what's the reason why I play that? Because John Leguizamo, hey, Latinos are getting bold with it, right? We've heard Jennifer Lopez change her stance. So she was black, now she's Latino, and she wants, these people to support like their...
What is wrong with you? I don't get it. Why you're saying someone's Latino, then they're black. You do know people can be black and Latino. When they're black Latino, Afro-Latino, that means they're both at the same time. It's like you don't have a good understanding of the concept. As far as Jennifer Lopez, she does call herself black sometimes. And I guess she does identify that way, as partially Afro-Latino. To me, I find it a little weird, because she's played white roles in the past, so it's like Jennifer Lopez isn't black, but I don't know. But we're talking about Zoe Saldana, so continue.
Given the African Americans, Goldman Sachs, they want them to give money to these Latina businesses now. John Leguizamo is coming out saying, hey, we built this country. So now what this lady is saying is, well, all right, you're not identifying as black or Afro-Latina, but you expect that
that doesn't mean that Zoe Saldana specifically doesn't identify as black Latina, though. I mean, you're talking about Jennifer Lopez. She's a different individual. She's played white roles in the past. Zoe Saldana has played black roles, so like I said, there's a difference there.
African American publications should come to your defense. And I'm not trying to make this a Dominican war and all that or whatever, because obviously we do have Dominican blacks that are very cool and things like that. But I mean, you're saying that you don't want to be identifying as black or Afro-Latina, yet
I just don't understand why he keeps trying to say that she doesn't identify as black or Latina, or doesn't identify as a black Latina, when he's not even putting any footage of her speaking. You talk about other people, but you don't have any recordings of specifically Zoe Saldana.
You expect the African American publications to boost you up, when John Leguizamo just said that you guys built this country.
So you're just saying you hate Hispanics, basically. You're just focused on what one Hispanic says, then they all hate Hispanic. They all have that same idea. You're very stereotypical. You're that type that's kind of like bigoted. But anyway, continue.
The Afro-Latinas who are in the Latin community are not getting the shine that they deserve. So then, whose issue is that? It would mean that the Afro-Latinas and the Afro-Dominicans and those people who feel like they're not getting their shine on, hey, if that's what it is, they got to put that stuff up for their individual, brothers and sisters and let them get on, especially if this person or people like that who y'all feel are not Afro-Latina, which is really a shot to all Afro-Latinas also are black. It's not even their job, to be honest, to build her up. The husband that she has is Italian, which is interesting because the husband took her last name, right? That just goes to show how beta male he was. But again, you don't want to identify as black. Let them take care of you. It's not anybody black, even the Afro-Latinas who embrace their blackness. And she says, I'm not a part of you. I don't identify as that.
Isn't this just basically slander at this point? Because you're saying she's saying things that she's not actually saying? Like, I don't understand. I understand you're hurt, most likely because she picked a man of another race, and you felt like you wanted access to a woman who isn't a dark-skinned black woman. But, yeah, that doesn't have to do with her identity, So, you pointing out that she didn't marry a black man doesn't specifically mean that she doesn't identify as black herself. What are you saying? You think she identifies as Italian? Of course, she's not saying she identifies as Italian. So, you're being really weird here by thinking that someone who married someone outside of their race now has that identity. Anyway, continue.
Slap in the face. And blacks need to keep continuing with this energy. if you don't want to be a part of our group, and we know that you're a part of our group, then we're not going to support you. Let's support our people who want to be here. And for me, I'm open. If it's the African Americans, if it's anybody who wants to add value to our group and they want to be down, because everybody else is uniting. Colombians uniting, Dominicans uniting, Mexicans are uniting. Not to the degree where they all just hang out every day, but they're celebrating their Latino experience, and they have a big spending power of 2.8.
I don't understand though. Why do you think Latino is a race? What race is Latino? Like, you're thinking from a very ignorant space. Latino isn't a race, okay? So if someone identifies with Latino people, and having a common identity with other Latino people has to do with cultural connection, not actually racial connection. So, it's just weird why you're saying that it's like black versus Latino when you can have an identity with having a black identity and a Latino identity at the same time.
$1 billion, which is almost double than ours. And as blacks, we don't have time to sit here and cape for people who are not a part of us or who don't want to be identified as that. So I think that the African American pubs need to continue to be silent on her. Let the white media outlets take care of her. Let Latin Trends take care of her. Let the Italian magazines take care of her. We need to be only supporting the people who are supporting us. So God.
Yes, and by that you mean basically anyone who supports you is someone who basically is sleeping with a black man, is married to a black man. That's the only way to support people, is to have sex with them. That's how you see it, basically. It's quite obvious. That's why you're hurt by the whole Italian thing, and that's why you're talking about Italians, because she happened to marry an Italian. But it's like I said, she specifically has never said that she doesn't identify with black people. She's actually strongly said that she identified as black, and it's kind of weird. You're not talking about any of the acting roles that she's taken on, how she's spoken against the backlash of her taking black roles, and how she's vehemently said throughout the years that she identifies as black. So I want to put that footage in here, so then, people putting out misinformation like that, of course they need to be checked. I also want to show how it's not specifically, I don't think the issue with Zoe Saldana's race is specifically how she identifies, but rather how black people identify her. See, he has his own issue. He's more angry at her because she's one of those type of black people who are not dark skinned. She's not light skinned in my opinion. She's brown. You can see that in the next video I'm going to show of her. She's a similar color to my own complexion. And I just think that, like, in this situation, it's kind of like she specifically has a situation where she identifies as black, clearly, but a lot of black Americans don't identify her as black. So let's watch the next video. Sorry, it's going to take a sec to load. Sorry about the commercial, guys.
What's up, you guys? So 4 years after Zoe Saldana's betrayal of Nina Simone in the Netflix film about her life, Zoe is coming out and saying that she should have never played that role, which required her to darken her skin and wear a prosthetic nose. Around the time of the film's production and release, Zoe Saldana was heavily criticized for playing the role of Nina, whom she did not resemble much at all. Nina Simone was a dark-skinned woman of African descent with features that are normally associated with blackness, like having a relatively round nose and large eyes. And although Zoe Saldana identifies as black, her skin is much lighter than Nina Simone's and her nose is much sharper than Nina. So, in order to portray Nina Simone, she wore dark makeup, which could be interpreted as blackface, and she wore a round.
See, exactly. They. A lot of black people rejected Zoe Saldana so much that the fact that her skin was a little bit more tan, they consider that blackface. Do you know what blackface is? It's when a white person puts on dark makeup to impersonate black people. So they're basically relating her to a non black person. So, yeah. It's not Zoe Saldana here that is specifically the one who's not trying to identify as black. But let's go further into it.
Prosthetic nose. And many people found Zoe's choice to portray Nina while wearing blackface and a prosthetic nose deeply insulting because there's a history of that in this country. There's a deep history that goes along with putting on dark makeup and round noses to portray black people in this country. And as a person with naturally dark skin and a rounder nose, I personally felt like Zoe Saldana looked like a joke dressed up as Nina Simone. She looked like a joke to me and to so many other people who felt like she was making a mockery of Nina Simone's physical features.
See, this is what I mean. They constantly try to associate Zoe Saldana's phenotype and her racial background to akin to a whiter person or a non-black person playing a black person's role. That's the same complaints, the same description of Zoe Saldana playing a black woman's role is specifically that of a non-black person playing her role.
And the way Nina Simone naturally showed up in the world. Nina Simone's dark skin and her facial features played a large part in how she was viewed in this world. People judged her for her dark skin and wide eyes and nose, and her looks deeply affected how people treated her. And to see Zoe Saldana wear.
And I always found that odd, that statement there, that some people would say that Zoe Saldana, how could she play her role when Zoe, like Nina Simone specifically, was judged for her dark skin and her features. But no one really pays attention to the fact that white people and other people of other races judge people like Zoe Saldana for her features and her dark skin because her skin is dark compared to other races. So it's really weird that people are really not conscious of what they're talking about when they would say, oh, she can't play her role because people were judging Nina Simone a certain way. You don't think that people judge Zoe Saldana, judged her for her darker features or her broader nose. They definitely do.
Fake nose and dark skin to portray her was downright insulting to a lot of people.
What are your true thoughts about the casting for Nina Simone roles? You know, people have particular thoughts about that. I feel like you do as well. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on Nina Simone's story and how that went about?
Zoe she is a woman of color.
Yes.
But I think that I think that we need to be a little more true to our stories, but I don't wish any harm on her. You know, we're actresses, we want to work, but I think that there were women who might have been more of a truer, just what may have been a better choice, but I'm sure that she'll do a wonderful job.
There's so many other actresses that were absolutely right on for that role. Viola Davis, musically India Ari, and that's just two off the top of my head. The makeup alone frightened me because I was like, I didn't know what I was looking at. Do I love the actress who's playing her? I love that actress. Is this necessarily the role that I would have chosen? No, but somebody did. Somebody liked her, loved her enough to give her their money, make that movie with her in it. We'll see where it falls.
But now, years later, Zoe Saldana says.
And yeah, so first off, as we can see, the reaction for her playing a black woman's role was specifically the backlash was coming from black people. It was not coming from Zoe Saldana having an issue with playing a black woman's role. If Zoe Saldana identified with any other race and didn't identify as black, there's no way she would be playing a black woman's role. But she was playing a black woman's role because she identified as a black woman. So, anyway,
She's come to the realization that she shouldn't have put on that nose, that prosthetic nose and dark makeup to portray Nina Simone. She should have stepped aside and allowed a black woman who naturally resembled Nina Simone to play that part.
Sorry about the commercial, guys. I'm gonna skip it in 2 seconds.
Finding yourself, and I feel like we're all always finding ourselves. It's an evolution. It's a process of evolution. We're always learning new things and growth, and in that process of growth and evolution and changing, that you begin to see the world with new eyes, and it forces you then to reflect on past choices. And I know that this is a sensitive topic for you, but obviously a few years back there was a lot of controversy around the decision that you made to play Nina Simone. And at the time there were a lot of questions around blackface and darkening skin and prosthetics. And I wonder, what is your relationship with that choice now? How has the process of evolution for you and in loving yourself changed not only the roles that you're taking today, but how it makes you reflect on that decision?
I should have never played Nina. I should have never played Nina. I should have done everything in my power with the leverage that I had 10 years ago, which was a different leverage, but it was leverage nonetheless. I should have tried everything in my power to cast a black woman, to play an exceptionally perfect black woman. It's growing. It's painful. I thought back then that I had the permission because I was a black woman, and I am. But it was Nina Simone, and Nina had a life and she had a journey.
So that's one thing I wanted to point out. See, she specifically is saying that from her perspective, she is a black woman. She identifies as a black woman. Even after all this backlash, she still identifies as a black woman. So the main problem with how people view her ethnicity, it seems like it's the black people. It's the dark-skinned black people. It's not specifically her saying that she's not black. And also added to it, it's not just that, it's interesting to me because it's like people are saying she's not dark skinned, but can you see her? She is certainly not light skinned. And to me it's interesting because people will always try and act like dark skinned black women and black men are only talking about like light skinned people representing them. But you can see with her, you can see her right here. And they say that she darkened her skin. If she darkened her skin, what is she right now? Is she darkening her skin right now? I think people are just thinking like when she's tan or in darker areas that she's darkening her skin, but she's not. I don't think. It just looks like she's just a darker person. A brown-skinned woman. But it's just interesting to me because it's like you guys would always complain about light-skinned people representing you. She's not even light-skinned. This is light skin? How the hell is this light skin? We all know it's not light skin. We know it's brown skin. Anyway, continue.
That should have been, and it should be honored to the most specific detail because she was a specifically detailed individual about her voice and her opinions and her views and her music and her art, and she was so honest, so she deserved better. But that said, so I'm so sorry, because I love her music. It wasn't enough, it shouldn't have been enough. But that said, she's one of our giants. Somebody else should step up. Somebody else should tell her story because she's one of those people that I'm besotted that Nina Simone, her story hasn't been like a global fucking impact. When we're taking her music from we're using it in car commercials, and but I'm taking her image and her story, and I think that I'm okay to tell it. We've been appropriating ourselves, but someone like Nina Simone for a very long time, and I just want her story to be told, and I want it to be right because she deserves it. And America deserves it because the Americans that inhabit today's America deserve her story to be told. And I know better today, and I'm never going to do that again. Never. So there. I'm learning. I'm still processing. I've been processing it for 10 years, and I think it's a conversation that I want to have. I'm not going to allow people to violate me, to make me feel less than, but I am going to be open to this conversation so that we can grow from it, and we can give back to ourselves and to each other our identity. For fuck's sake, it's about time.
So as you can tell, like I said, she clearly identified as a black woman. She's always identified as a black woman. Main issue in the whole backlash of the issue with Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone was specifically other people saying she wasn't black enough, basically. She wasn't dark enough to play Nina Simone. And as you can see, obviously it was a sensitive situation and very hurtful for her because she felt she was black enough. And a lot of black people rejecting her like that, saying she can't even play a black woman's role. Obviously, that would be very hurtful for someone who already identifies as black. Like with the whole race thing, saying she doesn't identify as black, well, that's very clear that she does identify as black, very strongly. It's more so that other people have rejected her when it comes to acting roles and saying that she can't play black roles simply because she's maybe a shade lighter than a dark-skinned person, which is really weird. It's just odd to me because it's like, that's not even a light-skinned person. She's not light-skinned. In my opinion, she looks like she could pass herself off as dark skin. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, guys. It's a commercial. Skipping it.
I'm glad to see Zoe realize that the backlash about her wearing prosthetics to play the role of Nina Simone was not about challenging the blackness of Zoe or how Zoe identifies herself. It was about honoring Nina Simone and her lived experiences as a dark-skinned black woman in this world. It was about Nina, not her. And her sentiments now are...
No, it was actually about black people in general. And honestly, I feel like it was honestly a way to normalize trying to make black people who are lighter skinned, who are brown skinned or light skinned, not basically represent other black people who are dark skinned. And that's just, to me, really wrong, because if that's supposedly a bad thing that Zoe Saldana played a role of Nina Simone, then it would be wrong for dark-skinned black people to play the roles of, lighter-skinned black people, but we would say that's colorist. You see, it's a way for dark-skinned black people to have a monopoly over black roles, basically, so they can play light skin roles, brown skin roles, dark skin, doesn't matter, basically, just all black people's roles, because they're the standard of blackness, and light skin and brown skin people can basically be out of work, which really hurts black people in general, because the majority of black people aren't even dark skinned. It'll benefit African people, though, because they tend to be more dark skinned, so it actually disenfranchises black Americans in general. But my point is, in showing this video, was not the colorism aspect, but just to show the perspective and how people viewed Zoe Saldana, and how Zoe Saldana played black women's roles and in how Zoe Saldana identified as a black woman. So the lie about saying that she didn't identify as black is literally a lie. And I wanted to also show, maybe I'll show the rest of this.
Black different from how she felt back in 2016 when she was being criticized for wearing dark makeup and prosthetics to play Nina Simone. Back then, she thought the conversation centered around her and her having lighter skin and having, quote, light skin privilege, as she called it in an interview with Sway in the Morning.
I understand that it is a topic that has brought much pain to a community.
You do understand that,
Of
though.
course,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. But I was silent because I'm never going to justify or explain my blackness. I know who I am. I do not have a problem with that. I don't hate myself for being black. I don't think I'm privileged for being lighter. I don't think I'm privileged for being lighter. I wasn't raised with lighter, lightest, lightest. I don't understand. Do you understand what I'm saying? My mother is still to this day the kind of person that if she shares with you an anecdote about an individual, she doesn't go, I was hanging out with my friend who's gay, unless the story is about something that was about him being gay. So I don't know how to describe people in boxes. I don't know how to act when I'm boxed into something. So, and I think that my career and the way that I live my life is an accurate reflection of who I am.
Leave a comment and share your thoughts about Zoe Saldana coming to the conclusion that she should have never played Nina Simone. Do you agree with her that she should have never put on that dark makeup and that prosthetic nose? And what do you think made her finally come to this conclusion?
So that's what I mean. She has consistently identified as black. The main thing, as you can see, this black woman here specifically was acting like she's not a real black person. She can identify as black, but she doesn't look like a black person to her, basically. That's the kind of mindset many of these type of black people have. They want to have this weird idea that you're supposed to constantly beg for their acceptance while they reject you in your face. It's really interesting, and then at the same time they want to claim that you don't want to be black when it's like she said she was black. She's always identified as being black, and it's mainly been the black people who are rejecting her. Continue with the next video. I just want this last video out here, and I'll say my last piece on it.
Strong enamel is your best defense against erosion and cavities. Reinforce that defense with new Pronamel Active Shield.
Reality is that what keeps me focused is
Shoot, I don't know what's wrong with this video.
the reality is that what keeps me focused is and what kept me from, I guess, getting stressed or being hurt by the comments and is that I'm doing it for my sisters, I'm doing it for my brothers, and I don't care who tells me that I am not this and I am not that. I know who I am, and I know what Nina Simone means to me, so that is my truth and that set me free. And I can only rely on that and maintain as much humility as possible so that when I have to face the world and we have to then give the movie to the world to see and share it with them, that if it comes back in any other way, if it comes back in a negative fashion or positive, I'm going to keep my chin up because that's who I am and that's who I'll be. And Nina was like that too. So I did it all out of love for Nina, out of love for my people and who I am, and my pride of being a black woman, and a Latina woman, an American woman, and that's my truth.
Yeah, so I wanted to put this video in here too because I think one thing that O'Shea Duke Jackson was trying to claim was that she had identified with Latino side and not her black side. You can see that she is saying that she is a black woman and she's Latina. So she's always identified as a Black Latina. I don't really think they go against each other. They can go together. And also, one other thing I wanted to say was just that I just find it really interesting in this whole conclusion of everything. Like, they try to make this narrative that, oh, Dominicans don't identify as Black. Oh, they're not Black. They self-hate themselves. They don't like themselves. In O'Shea Dukes Jackson's case, he was a little bit offended by the fact that she married a white man and not a Black man. But there's all that aspect to it. But then on top of everything, when you actually look at it, it's like, well, she did identify as Black. She got backlash for playing Black women's roles. And it's really weird. It's this whole cycle, like I said, where specifically the main thing in people rejecting her Blackness are Black people saying that she's not really a real Black person. She's using blackface. She's a fake Black person. She's appropriating Black people. She's not a real Black person, and so forth. And you can tell for her that was very offensive since she identified as a Black person, and them questioning her identity, trying to claim she's not a real Black person and everything. And it's just like, to me, it's just interesting because it's like, why is it this constant dynamic where they try to accuse you of not wanting to be Black, then at the same time try and make you want to beg to be Black, basically, those people begging to be Black, and then trying to claim that they're not actually a Black person. It's this constant thing where they're trying to say that she's not Black, but then she's the one trying to say she is Black. You know what I mean? It's just weird to me. It's like, you want her to be Black, I think, only because you feel like if she said that she wasn't Black, that she's saying that she's better than you. And that's your biggest fear. You do not want anyone slightly lighter than you saying that they are better than you. Even if someone didn't identify with being Black, that wouldn't really mean that they thought that they were better. But that's what goes in their head a lot of the time. I think that's what this whole concept is about, basically. I think in reality, people like O'Shea Duke Jackson and Black people like the other person, Layla Lynn, for example, they don't see her as specifically Black, as she specifically voiced, but I think that they specifically think that they don't want her to be anything else because they'll feel inferior for it. So yeah, it's just this weird inferiority complex, I think, that's going on here. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there for this video, just to point out that specifically, no, Zoe Saldana did not say that she was not Black. She's never said that she was not Black. She's always identified as Black. She's played Black women's roles. She's played Black women's roles in the face of backlash from Black people who did not want her to play Black women's roles. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, everyone. Comment down below and have a great day. Bye, guys.